So basically, you want the game over with.
Yeah. Well, this game is just, it's too long. It is too long. There's too much content. I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard that Nintendo was making the game, I was like, you know what? Maybe they learned that 120 shrines in Breath of the Wild is too much. No. Instead, what they did is they added 150 shrines plus the whole underworld section. It's just, it's very, it's very impressive. I gotta give it that. Like, they stuffed this with content. But, like, I mentioned this last time that, if that most often, like, games nowadays, the way they treat DLC is like, it's like we get all of the microtransactions and stuff separate. And it's all broken up. Like you get the bun is the main meal, and then you get the meat and cheese as DLC, and then the lettuce, pickles, and onions are all microtransactions. But this game, for whatever reason, you're like, you know what? We're gonna give you an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's gonna be world-class all-you-can-eat buffet. But the problem is that they have someone standing next to you, being like, please eat more, eat more, eat more, eat more. And it's just this weird, it's this weird, and I've been thinking more about it, because it's this weird situation where you can't really, it doesn't really hurt the game, right? It like, so it raises it from like, you know, it helps raise it from like a 7 to 8, but because there's too much, it actually prevents it from being a perfect game. So it's just this really weird situation where it's like, maybe they should have planned it better. So, I don't know. It's ridiculous. And so, but the problem is that I'm still determined to beat it. So, because Ganondorf is one of my favorite villains, and I can't just not learn about the epicness of Ganondorf. And I actually haven't spoiled everything. I still haven't seen the fight scenes and stuff. So I need that.
This game. Did you hear they were refusing to make DLC for it?
Well, I mean, if they don't need to make, I'm not like against that. If they feel they don't need to make it, then they don't need to make it. So I say I like I don't think that's bad. Like if why well, there are two ways to do DLC, right? It's where they have DLC planned at the beginning, and they want it to be extra content, and it's supposed to be planned around the game that's already in. That, or you have DLC where they see that the game is good, and they're just going to add extra content in afterwards. And I don't know. I feel like the beginning one is much better because you get a more cohesive story, a more cohesive idea on how everything is supposed to be. So I'm not against Nintendo doing that because they just feel that they've made everything in the game that they were supposed to, right? So it's not like I don't think it's bad.
But who turns down free money? Except Nintendo, apparently.
Look, I can't argue with that. Like, again, we've mentioned this before. Nintendo could have done more skins and Smash Ultimate, and everyone would have literally
Like, look at it this way. Elden Ring is even bigger than Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is,
yeah.
and it had DLC. So you can't say just because it's big, that it shouldn't get DLC. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I do think one thing that uh, Tears of the Kingdom has more than Breath of the Wild is that the mechanics of the game are far more in depth. So there's much more intricate system,
I see.
which is why they charged extra for it. Because it wasn't. Because it probably
Which
took them longer than they
I'm
expected to figure all this
I'm
stuff.
sorry, as this comes off mean, but that's the whole reason I haven't bought it yet.
Oh, that's fine. I don't think that's mean. I just think that's.
I honestly don't. I think games should still be $60. I feel like they make enough money off of it as $60. I don't think they need the extra money that bad. I don't think they're hurting for it.
Eh. I think there. Well, if I were to use my business ideas, I think what probably happened is that they were in the middle of making the game, and they wanted it to be as good as possible, but their development cycle went way longer than expected. Now remember, when you're dealing with big money, they have projections of how much money they can spend.
Here's
So
what I think.
suppose
I
you
think
have
they're
five.
go.
I'm not done
Here's
yet.
what I think.
I'm not done yet.
You didn't
I'm
let
not
me
done
finish
yet.
either.
Huh?
You didn't let me finish yet either.
I was in the middle of doing something though. I was saying something. All right. You finish your thought. What were you saying?
I'm sorry.
What were you saying?
What I was gonna finish my statement off with was, I feel like they did it because everything else is going up in price, so we should too, just because. And that's what I feel like it is.
I mean, that may
Cause
be
look at
the.
fast food. Fast food is going up and up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Well, it's hard to say why things are going up and up.
When the glow of the blood-stained moon shines upon
You get where I'm
the
coming
land,
from, though?
Oh, I get the
the
perception
aimless
there.
spirits of slain monsters
Definitely.
return to flesh.
And I don't think. Well, and also none of their newer
Is
games have
threatened
been
once again.
So it's only been Breath of Tears of the Kingdom. But if you want to get to the nitty gritty, it's hard to state why companies raise prices, because it's not just like one simple thing. Very often, companies are forced to raise. If I were to boil it down, it's the companies are either forced to raise prices due to the market, and that's a very, very simplified answer, or companies realize that they have the means to, that people love their product so much that they can raise it as much as they want and people will still buy it. So
Which is not a good thing.
that's not a good thing, and that's kind of rare. But like, for example, if you want a hot take, insulin, I forget his name, Martin Shkreli. The moment he got the company for that made insulin, which is a life-saving drug, right? The first thing he did was he jacked up the price. And the thing is that he knows that people are going to pay for it, either people or insurance companies, and there's nothing that they can do about it. So that's a very sleazy way to do it. I don't think video game companies are quite that bad. I think the worst offender is probably EA. Like, the example of that would be loot boxes. Loot boxes are probably the worst thing to ever come in the industry.
I would say the worst thing to come to the industry is EA themselves.
Well, EA was good back in the day. Like, they made SSX Tricky, which is a classic. I mean, there's
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's a snowboarding game. It's kind of like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but different.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, again, I'm trying to give a well-rounded answer, so just so that you understand fully for more context. But if I were to do a video game example of that, it would kind of be like how, you know, when everyone hated on Nintendo during COVID everyone hated on Nintendo during COVID because they shut down the Big House tournament because Melee was using Slippy. Everyone was upset because it was using COVID. It was during COVID, and what ended up happening was that just a couple weeks afterwards, Sephiroth came out, and then after that it was like, oh, everyone forgot, everyone moved on, you know. Nintendo gets so many passes because of just because of how good their games are. So the weird thing, it's a weird situation. Now, here's the thing with the entertainment industry is that it's very much, there's always a element in the entertainment industry that you can instantly become irrelevant. Kind of like how Nintendo, a couple big flops Nintendo had when it went from N64 to GameCube and got completely overpowered by the PS2 and the Xbox. That was a big blow to them. And then
Actually, the GameCube outsold the Xbox.
True, but the problem with it wasn't so much the problem at that point wasn't so much that I gotta shut that off. The bigger issue wasn't so much that Xbox did bad. It was more that Xbox got any footing at all. Because remember, Nintendo was really, there was a brief period of time after Sega fell that it was only Nintendo. And so once PlayStation and Xbox entered, then all of a sudden Nintendo had competition. And then after the GameCube, they had the Nintendo Wii, which did fantastic in sales, but it alienated their core fan base. And then they had the Wii U, which was the biggest flop ever. So Nintendo was actually on a downhill slide after the GameCube. So
I like the GameCube.
the GameCube was really good. They had really good games. But again, at the time, us youngins were all focused on graphical quality and what was it, adult games, I guess. Like GameCube couldn't run Call of Duty, so
The GameCube was still more powerful than for its time period, than the Wii was. I don't know if you remember, but Wii was the only system of this generation to not be 1080p. If you remember, it was the only one.
oh yeah.
You wanna know something interesting? The $70 games that have been coming out, you know what most of them actually are?
What?
Open world. I just thought that was interesting.
Open world?
Starfield was also 70.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Starfield's also open world. As, as forward, for foreshadowed, Tears of the Kingdom was open world. So it seems like a lot of the open world games are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. The open world game takes the most effort. Either they have to
I
create a more story, or they have to create mm, uh, a specific, I guess, more cohesive battle mechanics or game mechanics. Just there's a lot to it. And again, I'm not. I know I think we disagree on that. I'm not like wholly against um game companies raising prices, just because I honestly believe they should have that they had. I'm actually amazed they haven't raised prices sooner, just because of all the economic factors going on. So I know it doesn't seem right or fair, but like, just think about how games have stayed at $60 for like the last 20 years, while everything else has been going up. That's not. That's very unusual. That's incredibly unusual. So, and again, they've been able to get around it because of DLC and microtransactions and other things. Like they have other ways that they sell stuff and make
You
stuff.
think
Like,
they released Tears of the Kingdom at 70 because they were never planning on releasing DLC in the first place?
that's
So
not.
that was just to supplement it.
I mean, that's not a bad theory actually. I don't think that's a wholly. I don't think that's a bad theory at all. But again, as long since we don't work at Nintendo, it's hard to say.
I gotcha.
Yeah, because I don't think. I personally don't think that would be the case, but I think that the most likely case is that it took longer than expected for them to develop the game and to iron out all the kinks. And so, because they have projections that they're trying to hit, they probably went into the red to make the game. And so, it wasn't so much of them trying to make more money; it was them trying to hit a certain threshold because they spent more money than expected. So they're trying to make up those losses. Because again, I read the thing about how developers were just kind of freaking out about how crazy and intricate the building mechanics are in this game. So just how everything can almost connect with everything else.
Was God of War 70? You bought it, so you would know.
No, it was 60. But then again, like that deserves to be a $60 game. So
Like, look at it this way. If you argue, okay, for their effort, it should be 70, then why is Elden Ring 60 when it has more in it and took more effort to develop than Tears of the Kingdom did? Most likely.
you gotta be careful judging things by effort. Not everything you can't put a price value dependent upon effort. You can do it dependent on the time it takes to make it.
Isn't it the same thing?
No, it's not. Because effort implies the idea of how difficult it was, right? Not how long it was. So you could have somebody sitting there on the clock just sitting there doing nothing for 10 hours every day, he's not putting in a lot of effort, right? Should he get paid more than the person who's doing 2 hours of work?
According to EA, yes.
Yeah, according to EA, yes, but that's why you can't really base it off effort, because effort is very case by case. But you can do it by time. Time is measurable. Time is something that
Hold up. I gotta know. What are those things that are
What?
crawling out of that?
Where?
That big puddle of slime over there.
Oh, right there. Or
That,
or
yeah.
just this here.
That.
That? Oh.
No, the brown stuff.
Oh, the circle right there? It just popped? Or
No,
are you talking
like-
about? Are you talking about that big goopy thing up there?
The goofy thing up there.
Oh. Well, this is the. I guess I'll say the Zoro's Domain Temple. This is the Waterfall Temple. So.
So you're gonna suffer.
Probably, yeah. But basically, whatever that is causing Zora's Domain to freak out. So, I think if I
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I just was confused about that.
No, it's all good.
But
Dago. We got deep into game discussion here.
it's fine.
Oh, that's fine. I enjoy it. I'm very opinionated, and but I also like to be realistic about how it probably is happening. So I could be wrong. I mean, I honestly think that the one you said about them not doing DLC, Nintendo not doing DLC, knowing they weren't doing DLC, so making it 70 to make up for that fact, that's actually a very plausible reason. That's not out of the ballpark. I just think it's more likely that it took them longer than expected. So.
Here's my thing with Tears of the Kingdom. It'd be one thing if it was a brand new Zelda and it was built from the ground up, or something. But it wasn't built from the ground up. You know, it borrowed a lot from Tears of the Kingdom. That's my issue with it.
It borrowed it borrowed the climbing in the world, I guess. But
That's what I mean. Like, it probably took them less time to make than something like Elden Ring, which is completely from scratch.
The only argument I have against that is the amount of
waters of Zora's domain.
the amount of moving parts that they put
Use
together
your power to
is
turn
kind of
on the four
insane.
faucets, and you
So,
can collect water.
just because so like the fusion mechanic, the fact that they're able to fuse a lot of stuff
Heed
together.
my words.
Ultra Hand, the fact that you're able to put a bunch of stuff together. And
What's
the fact
Ultra
that
Hand?
they all go together without breaking the game or having insane glitches. Like, it's actually pretty impressive. So it's not so like you're saying that Elden Ring is being built from scratch, but the mechanics of Tears of the Kingdom, they're much deeper, they're much more complex, and so it's hard to iron out everything in a very complex system like that. I think that's what took the time. not so much of reusing assets. So,
You get where how I feel is coming from, though, right?
yeah, like on the surface level, it looks like Elden Ring is a much bigger because Elden Ring is a bigger game than and had to start from scratch. Then it looks like it would be. Then it looked more impressive. It looks like it shouldn't be. It looks like it should cost more than Tears of the Kingdom, or Tears of the Kingdom doesn't deserve to be $70. So. I'm just telling you what I think, is that I just think that the mechanics being so complex is what made it take so long. So, and also, like, well, the Tears of the Kingdom, they took Breath of the Wild's world and they made it way bigger. Like, look at this map. Look at this map, right? Oh, this isn't, let's go to world map. Okay, look, so we have this guy, right, with all the islands. But then we have the overworld, right? Look. And not only that, the overworld is different than what it was in Breath of the Wild. Like, they made it feel like a completely new game. And then a whole separate underworld that you can explore. It's just and look, and it's this is the same size as the overworld. It's insane. It's insane. So it's not like they didn't. It's not like they just copy and pasted everything from one to the other. Like, they made a ton of changes to the world setting. Now, granted, I'll give you this. Baldur's Gate 3 came out. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom is good enough to win Game of the Year over Baldur's Gate 3. But I mean, I think it's in the running, like, because they did add a lot of stuff to this game. The story's better. It's more cohesive. The world is bigger. The mechanics are more complex. It's just it's a very different game than what you'd expect it to be, even though it looks like Breath of the Wild. Because that's what it looks on the surface. Just a glorified Breath of the Wild.
It's not like I have a problem with that either.
Mm-hmm.
Because Genshin Impact was like Breath of the Wild too.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like it.
Yeah. Genshin Impact is impressive as well. I give props to Genshin just because they like, I remember when it first came out, people were like, "Oh, it's just a Breath of the Wild clone," and it's like, oh,
it plays. The only thing it has in common with Breath of the Wild is like appearance. Even the appearance is still more anime than Breath of the Wild is.
Yeah.